press person who is in charge of this region of the country. They have a press secretary, and then they have people for, I think it's 6 regions of the country, and for this particular section, Jess is in charge of. Spoke with her just a moment ago, and she said that right now that some of this may have been covered on national, so if I'm repeating it, you'll forgive me, but I've been talking with them, and she says that Chief of Staff Leon Panetta is right now meeting with senior staff at the White House as they stay apprised of the situation. President staying up to date on it. She tells us that White House Press Secretary Mike McCurry will be holding his briefing that has been referred to somewhat earlier at, unless events intervene to change it, at 12 o'clock Oklahoma time at noon, which would be in about 17 minutes right now. And Jennifer, I'll pitch it back to you while I hold on this call.
Okay, thanks, Jack. I believe we have Barbara Goche on the phone. Barbara, where are you, and tell me what you're seeing?
Jennifer, we've still been moved back from the scene, but I've got a little more information. I'm not quite sure if you've been reporting this, because I've not been hearing everything that we have been reporting, but I've been told by one of the officers here on the scene that there are 55 to 56 children trapped inside. You talked about the daycare that's on the lower floors of that federal building. We understand there were 60 children in the daycare, and 4 to 5 have been taken out, but there are 55 or 56 children trapped inside, along with numerous other people. He said they don't know how many people are trapped in there because they don't know how many people are actually in the building. As you said, this happened at 9 o'clock, and the building was full. Now, we've also been told that the folks are trying to do what they can, and that second bomb that we've been talking about, the possible incendiary device, he tells me that bomb is up near the daycare area. So it is quite frustrating for them because they know that there are people inside and that need help, but they cannot get to them right now until they either defuse or move that second incendiary device.
All right, Barbara, thank you for that update. We're going to go now and listen to Gary Glover, who was an eyewitness. He spoke with us just a few minutes ago. Let's see what he had to say and what he saw and heard after the explosion.
Oh, it was a terrible explosion. It happened about 9 o'clock, I think it was. Boy, it's just like an atomic bomb went off. The ceiling went in and all the windows came in, and it was a deafening roar, and then there's just dust and everything. I don't know what direction it came from, but all I know is everything just caved in all around.
Gary Glover, who was an eyewitness during the explosion. Our Terry Watkins has been standing by live now all morning long just outside the federal building. Terry, tell us the latest that you have from down at that location.
Well, Jennifer, we got a little higher vantage up for you this time. You can see down towards the Murrah building a massive staging area. We have seen fire department and police units coming in from surrounding the metro area, Deer Creek, Guthrie, Moore, Cleveland County, all of those. They are staging down in an area down there, and this appears, and the indications we had received a little earlier, is this will be part of the search as they begin to deal with the victims and the damage down in that area. They've got police units on horseback because it's just impossible to get around in that area down there. We have lost contact, direct contact with John Hanson with the fire department and Bill City with the Oklahoma City Police Department after they moved us back over the concerns over another possible bomb. So we're still standing about 5 blocks back from the Murrah building at 10th and Hudson. So we are not getting additional reports on how the search inside of the building is going. We're trying to talk to fire units and people that keep going by us, and they say they're just searching. They're just still inside and looking. And that is part of what you're beginning to see down there in that downtown area.
That update. As we mentioned a few moments ago, Tinker Air Force Base, located in Midwest City, just outside of Oklahoma City, they have been placed on a high security alert. Governor Frank Keating says he has closed state offices for the day, and he has also called in the National Guard. Now, a short time ago, about 30 minutes ago, we shot some videotape. Here's the bomb squad, and where they are now, I believe that's the basement of the state capitol building. The bomb squad going through the hallways into individual offices to check to see if there is anything suspicious, anything at all. As you know, located inside the federal building, you're aware by now, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. They have an office, their Oklahoma City office, located in the Murrah building. The Drug Enforcement Agency is located there, a military recruiting office located there, as is the Secret Service. You're watching videotape shot just about half an hour ago. They are in the basement now. They are checking and then going upstairs to check all the offices to make sure that no suspicious devices are located there. For those of you wanting to donate blood, the Oklahoma Blood Institute now tells us they are taking O negative blood only, and only if you have donated before. O negative, of course, the universal blood type. You can go to the Oklahoma Blood Institute. I believe they're located at 10th and Lincoln, yes. Now, the governor's plan, as we said, he has called in the National Guard. He's also called in additional Oklahoma Highway Patrol troopers. And he has also asked University Hospital, located in the Capitol complex, to be the repository for phone calls. If you are a doctor, a nurse, a respiratory therapist, an EMT, we'd like you to call, if you can come back here so we can give you those numbers, 271-2331. Again, 271-2331 if you're a physician, an RN, an LPN, an emergency technician, or a respiratory therapist. They will need your help, but in order to know where and when to go, which hospital to go to, call that number, 271-2331. Also, hospitals and clinics will need help. We heard that St. Anthony Hospital has right now an overflow of volunteers. However, that will not be the case probably throughout the early morning hours and then again tomorrow, as their needs will maintain and continue. So those of you who would like to help, to volunteer, another number for you to call is 271-2316. That number is 271-2316. You can call that number. They will be able to best tell you which hospital, which clinic, which place you can go to best be of service. Again, we had mentioned the FBI. The FBI is not located in the Alfred P. Murrah building. The FBI is located about 50 blocks north in a building called 50 Penn Place. And they have evacuated that building. It's probably about a 15-story tall building. They have evacuated that about 10 o'clock this morning. They sent in bomb technicians to check to make sure that there were no other devices inside that building. The, again, 50 Penn Place, a large shopping mall located just north of 50 Penn Place, that is closed. Remington Park Racetrack is closed. Governor Frank Keating has closed the state offices today, so an incredible amount of immediate reaction to this tragedy. As we have been told, we talked to Dr. Tom Caniglione, the medical director for St. Anthony Hospital. That's the hospital getting the brunt of the injuries. And he tells us, unfortunately, that we have confirmed that one child has died. And we are also told by Barbara Goche, who is in the area, that there is a daycare in the lower levels of that building. Located in the daycare is were about 60 children. Now, we're told they have taken out about 4 to 6 children inside that building. They were taken to St. Anthony Hospital. As we mentioned, one of those children has died. There are still, however, about 55 children, we are told, trapped inside the building. We are now aware, we have another eyewitness. We'd like to toss to some videotape that we took a little bit earlier today of another person who was an eyewitness to this horrible explosion that happened about 9 o'clock this morning.
What was that like?
It was just, I never experienced anything like it. You feel the concussion, and then next thing you know, you're on the floor covered in glass. Probably lost consciousness for just a few seconds, you know, but it was really amazing.
Okay, now he was describing the scene that he saw about 9 o'clock this morning. As you can see, emergency workers, oh goodness, there's a baby. That child, hard to tell the age, probably about 2 to 3 years old. Oh, this is awful to watch. Taken from the daycare center. There's a woman with lacerations to the face. Dr. Tom Caniglione says the majority of those hurt have lacerations to the scalp, to the face, to the back. He even mentioned one woman who had her hand on a doorknob inside the federal building. When the explosion occurred, her hand was on the doorknob. The door explodes back at her, and it blew open and it fractured bones in her arm, and she is currently in surgery. Tremendous amount of blood. It is just an incredible sight. We saw so much of it this morning. It was hard to watch these as they are excavating people, as they're coming out of these being trapped inside the building. We're seeing this, and frankly, the children are very, very difficult to watch. Parents of children inside the daycare center were predominantly employees of the Alfred P. Murrah building. There is also another daycare center next door, the YMCA. children who were inside that daycare center, their parents are asked to come to the grassy spot on the east side of that building to pick their children up. Cherokee Ballard joins me now, and Cherokee, this has been just an unbelievable sight.
Awful morning. I was on my way downtown this morning when it happened, and I got off on the access road at North 6th Street, which is the main downtown exit, and there were so many emergency vehicles and so many people that I just chose to turn around and come home because I knew that the mass chaos was going to just keep getting bigger and bigger, and as we're seeing, it certainly is.
Now, Terry Watkins has been located. She was initially a couple of blocks away from the explosion. Then they moved them back because there was a concern that there was a secondary device that they found on the east side of the building. They moved all the media back. They have since been moved back even further, and now, Terry, I believe you're what, 10th and Harvey, or locate us?
Yeah, we're at about 10th and Harvey, which puts us about 5 blocks north of the Murrah building. We were able to get on the roof of a business to begin to give you a better shot as all the emergency vehicles began to converge south. Where you see those emergency vehicles is exactly where we were earlier this morning when they initially moved us back further because of a possible bomb threat, a possible second or third device that was found inside of the building or near the building. We have heard a lot of reports from people who have left that scene talking about the sheer devastation that is in front of that building, and of course we can see it. I mean, there is nothing left of that building from this side at all, and we are on the north side of the building. The shot you're seeing is facing south. Emergency crews down there are converging from around the metro area. The helicopters remain up in the air trying to monitor what is going on. We're seeing a lot of relief that's being brought in for the crews that are down in that scene and have been down in that scene since 9 o'clock this morning. They're having to do a floor-by-floor literal search of that building to try to find the survivors and the fatalities that are still in there. And we know there are fatalities inside that building. John Hanson told us that. We are not being allowed by the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation and the Oklahoma City Police Department to go any closer than we are right now. There is always a continued threat, but they do want the nothing but law enforcement officials to be down in that location conducting the search and dealing with whatever injured. Because in this type of a situation, you also have people who are frightened, who simply go into an office and are afraid to move for a period of time. So they want to make sure everything's evacuated, they want to make sure everybody's out, and they want to continue the search, not only for the victims and for the bodies of those who did not make it out, but to try to figure out why this all happened, what blew up, where it blew up. And that is the way they begin the search for the who and the why behind all of this.
Terry, thank you very much. Reporting from downtown Oklahoma City. And Jack Bowen is going down there, but he joins us now one last time from our update desk before he goes downtown. Jack.
A couple of things, Cherokee. Of course, this story is receiving national coverage. I'm sure national, not only national, but international coverage. I spoke a moment ago with a senior producer with ABC's Primetime Live, which of course airs on Wednesday nights at 9 o'clock here on Channel 5 and the rest of the ABC stations around the country. Mark Lukashevitz, senior producer, says right now their staff is meeting in New York to figure out exactly how much time they'll be spending on this story tonight. They were planning on doing an hour tonight on Carol O'Connor, and he said obviously we won't be devoting that much time, if any, to that story. They're meeting, but they do want to assure our viewers that ABC tonight on Primetime Live at 9 o'clock will be covering this story. We'll be staying in touch with them. And also, the other update, the White House spokesman for this region, Jess Sarmiento, told me from the White House just probably 15, 20 minutes ago that Mike McCurry, the White House press secretary, also with senior staffers in the White House right now monitoring the situation, and we will be getting a live statement from the White House coming up. It's planned for 4 minutes from now at noon Oklahoma time. Could vary slightly depending on events and as they just deal with information coming in on this crisis. But when that happens, we will be bringing you live coverage here on Channel 5, and I'll toss back to you, now to you, Cherokee.
Okay, Jack, thank you very much. And if you are just joining us this morning at 9 o'clock this morning, a big explosion at the Alfred P. Murrah building in downtown Oklahoma City. Most of the media crews since that time have been moved very far back from that. And let's go now to Mike Gotro at 11th and Harvey. Mike, what's the vantage point from there?
Cherokee, we've managed to find a building we can get on the roof here back at 11 and Harvey. You're absolutely right. They have moved crews way back after they found a second device, as they say, inside the building. You're now looking at a shot of the north side of the building. As you can see, most of it is not there. When we were closer to the building, there were some people still trapped on the upper floors. Firefighters having trouble getting trucks close enough to the building with ladders big enough to get that high. I suspect they, in the corner that these people were trapped in, the only way they're going to get down is through a window. Now, while we were at that scene, they found that second device. We've got some videotape we can roll for you and show you what it was like. Just as soon as someone yelled that they had found another device in the building, it kind of got mayhem down there on the street. People running, people yelling. The police were even hiding. They weren't sure at that point whether perhaps there was some gunfire or if there was another device. It turns out that reports now say that there was another device. People moved back at that point. That was about 45 minutes ago, to at least 4 blocks away from the building, and I understand they are considering moving that perimeter back. Again, just mayhem down here right now. Lots of police from agencies across central Oklahoma. We've even seen some probation and parole agents kind of doubling as police to try to secure the perimeter around this area. I think the biggest fear right now is that if another device went off, we could have many more injuries. Cherokee?
All right, thank you very much, Mike. And we have just, we're receiving numerous phone calls into our newsroom from people wanting to offer their help and wanting to know where they can go. We've been telling you about where you need to go to donate blood, but we also just got a call in about registered nurses that they can call in to help. We have a 1-800 number for you if you'd like to write this down. It's 1-800-580-3476. There it is on your screen, 1-800-580-3476. Working with people at the command posts, the Oklahoma Nurses Association are asking anyone that is a registered nurse to please do whatever they can to help in this horrible, tragic situation this morning. No doubt lots of people will definitely need the help. A lot of people already at area hospitals with major injuries, some with minor, which is good to report out of this, but many of them with some injuries that definitely need a lot of medical attention. And if you're just joining us at 9 o'clock this morning at the Alfred P. Murrah building in downtown Oklahoma City, a federal building, a big explosion, lots of people injured. The major concern at this point is that there was a daycare center in the bottom of the building where a lot of children are kept. And you're looking right now at the building. One portion of the whole building was just demolished, blown up. We do have some eyewitness accounts, and let's go ahead and take a listen at one of those.
The ceiling fell in on my head, and it took me a second. It's like I was almost unconscious for a second to figure out what had happened. And the whole building just felt like it was caving in. I didn't know what was going on. And when everything kind of calmed, after all the building had fallen, we made it to the window on the south side and looked across the street, and the federal building was just blown all to shreds, and cars were blowing up. We were hollering at people down below, trying to get people to hear us, you know, and help did arrive. And I was one of the lucky ones. We had one girl seriously hurt. Her face was all cut up because she had a window office. Luckily, I did not, and I was on the other side of the office suite.
And you're looking now at people right after this happened. A lot of people, and a lot of this is unedited video because a lot of these people came out of this building and buildings near it covered in blood, many of them hurt by the shattered glass and glass flying, and a lot of the particularly the building where it happened. A lot of people at this point, they're still in there trying to find the victims. We hope that many of them will make it through this horrible situation. And we want to let you know that in the building, there was many offices, housing and urban development, 177 people worked there, Social Security, General Accounting Office, a major federal building, and many different offices are always in those federal buildings. The U.S. Department of Agriculture, Customs Department, Secret Service, Veterans Administration, Drug Enforcement Administration, Small Business Administration, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. Many of those offices only had 15, 20, 30 people in them, but they were all in that building at that point. And we understand...
This is Peter Jennings at ABC News headquarters in New York. We're going to interrupt very briefly our Channel 5 coverage from Oklahoma City, which has been excellent, just to bring people up to date in case they have joined us from around the country. 3 hours ago in Oklahoma City at 9 o'clock this morning, there was a tremendous explosion, a massive explosion at the federal building in the center of the city, the AP Murrah building. You can see there what you may have seen many times already this morning. More than 500 people work in the building. Governor Keating, the governor of Oklahoma, said a short while ago that he knows of at least 18 people dead and 6 may be children. In the immediate aftermath of the explosion, there has been a frantic search by people in the downtown area for their relatives, their loved ones, their colleagues, and their children. And we do know that both at a daycare across the street in the YMCA and in the building itself, a number of children have been wounded and several have been killed. Perhaps the most current briefing we have had was from a doctor at St. Anthony's Hospital a short while ago, Dr. Tom Caniglione.
The initial group of injuries that we saw were people who were on the street and outside, and they were injured by exploding glass. And they had many superficial lacerations of the face, the scalp, the back. There was one lady who had her hand on a doorknob when the explosion took place. The door flew open, and the power of the exploding door fractured the bones in her arm, and she's currently in the operating room. Those are being fixed. So the initial injuries were people who were standers-by or visitors or walkers in the street. And then we started getting some children from the daycare center, and then we got some people from within the building. Those within the building were injured considerably worse than those who were out on the streets.
Dr. Canigli goes on to say that there has been a tremendous reservoir of goodwill among volunteers in the city and that they have more than enough of everything to take care of those wounded. Many of the city's hospitals have taken in people. In one case, the Children's Hospital has been so busy taking in adults, and the Adults Hospital in one case has been taking in children. Many people are in shock, and they've had to assign in at least one hospital a team of psychiatrists to deal with people who are, as you can well imagine, in serious trauma after having had some association with this explosion. The assistant fire chief in Oklahoma City, John Hanson, told us a while ago that they believe this was a bombing and they are responding as if it was, but they do not yet have forensic evidence to prove that it was. To continue his quote, one more line, the damage appears consistent with a bombing. And the federal government has become very much involved. The FBI, from command headquarters in Washington, as well as in Oklahoma City and in Phoenix, has leapt into the investigation and will lead the investigation. The Federal Emergency Management Administration has sent teams there, though there do at the moment seem to be an enormous number of volunteers and more than everything that Oklahoma City appears to need except blood. There's been several appeals on our local station, Channel 5, for people to contribute blood at various clinics around the country. There has been a device discovered by dogs and by the FBI in the building. They don't call it a second device, but they do say there has been what they describe as an explosive device found inside the building. There were dogs and rescue workers inside the building trying to ascertain, A, what it is. The Pentagon has become involved, sending very quickly a team of bomb experts to the site. Forensic experts have been sent by the federal government as well, because this is clearly being treated as if it were an attack by a terrorist. 55 or 60 children are still trapped inside the building itself. So there were several daycare centers in the area. ABC's Hal Bruno, our political editor actually, who is a specialist on emergency rescue, tells of several rescue teams being sent from around the country. We know of at least one from Phoenix, Arizona, which is about to take off to go and do what it can. There has been no way whatsoever to ascertain just how many people have been killed or injured. Governor Keating saying he knows of 18 dead, 6 of whom may be children. A great many of the casualties, our local station and the hospital there confirms, have been fairly superficial, people who were affected by the flying glass. But this is a 9-story federal building, which was built in the 1970s, which in at least 2 stories have collapsed upon themselves. So there are many people trapped inside the building. There have been volunteers and appeals for heavy equipment, and the assistant fire chief said this was a relief effort they expected to go on well into the night, if not longer. The President's White House spokesman, Mike McCurry, is going to brief on the President's concern at the very least about this. The President says he was concerned, very disturbed by the reports he has heard about terrorist activity or potential terrorist activity coming from Oklahoma City. We're joined from the Justice Department now by our law correspondent, Tim O'Brien. Justice Tim, I know, has been told to reach everywhere into the federal bureaucracy and see if they can put their finger on anything, right?
That's correct, Peter. There's a great deal of heightened security here. They're checking everyone twice going in. And we understand they're even running mirrors under some of the cars that are entering the building, entering the parking lot inside the building. I haven't seen that, but that's what we're hearing. The Justice Department has dispatched 3 emergency response teams to the scene in Oklahoma City from field offices around the country, and also a team of forensic experts, the same team we understand, or the same group of people that went to investigate the World Trade Center bombing in New York.
Okay, Tim, thanks very much. Has there been any clue picked up anywhere? Has anybody claimed responsibility? Have there been some claims of responsibility in parts of the country? In one, somebody quoted the Nation of Islam, but again, we caution people to remember this kind of thing happens on these occasions. Tim, any claims at all?
Peter, the Justice Department and the FBI are both mum on that. They are opening up a command headquarters at FBI headquarters across the street. We may be getting more information later this afternoon, but we're also told that most of the information is coming right now out of Oklahoma City.
Okay, thank you very much. Tim O'Brien of the Justice Department. We'll go back to him as we learn details. Elsewhere in Oklahoma City today, the headquarters of the FBI were evacuated. The FBI is located in a building called Penn Place, which is not near the federal building, but because the FBI was involved in an investigation and an assault on the Branch Davidian compound in Waco, Texas, 2 years ago today, the FBI in Oklahoma City felt it sensible to evacuate their building and several radio stations inside it. There's been a lot of talk in Oklahoma City today as you look at this quite horrendous damage done to the north side of the federal building. Quite a lot of talk in Oklahoma City today about some connection to various earlier incidents. It is true that in Oklahoma City, in this building, is located the regional office of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, which was involved in the assault on the compound at Waco. But as you have heard, not just from us, but from other reporters and observers today, there are lots of people in the world with lots of gripes, at the very least. And so there is no way to put our finger at the moment. This is an earlier piece of videotape from our local station in Oklahoma City when the news was announced that there was an unexploded device found in the basement of the federal building. Now, this is a building that has more than 500 employees. The bomb went off at about 9 o'clock in the morning. So many clearly were at work already, working for the Social Security Administration, the General Accounting Office, the Small Business Administration, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, the Air Force, the Department of Agriculture, Customs, and the Secret Service, and the Veterans Administration. So any serious discussion about who might have done this at the moment is clearly not valid in the absence of some forensic advice for which the military has already dispatched teams. In just a couple of minutes, Mike McCurry is going to brief from the White House. In the intervening time, let us go back to our excellent coverage from Channel 5 in Oklahoma City.
There, literally hundreds of people being taken into ambulances, those who are critically injured. The others, like this lady, they were helped on the site. There were medical personnel from home health care, from different hospitals. There's another man being rushed in.
Rhonda, we see bad things every day, but this is something that you certainly don't ever hope to have to report on.
That is true. I mean, as we walked up, I could not believe what was happening. You really couldn't believe your eyes, and you especially couldn't believe that it was actually happening here in Oklahoma City.
And at this point, the governor has called in for the National Guard to come in and help in this situation, and a lot of emergency crews in downtown Oklahoma City. We know this is making national news across the United States. People are wondering and calling.
Very much a national story and an international story now, this explosion in the heartland of the country in a federal building, just as people were arriving at work this morning, and Washington very much engaged in this. Now, a moment ago you saw some videotape of people fleeing from the area of the federal building when they heard from local officials that there was an explosive device found in the building. We actually heard that from the Justice Department in Washington this morning, but they may have had a change of mind. Let's go to Tim O'Brien. Tim.
Well, you're exactly right, Peter. They told us earlier that it was their understanding there was an unexploded device. That means a bomb in the basement of the building, and that the Department of Defense had been dispatched to disable the bomb, to disarm the bomb. Now we're being told by the same people, not so fast, it may be something else. So we just don't know.
Okay, Tim, thanks very much. And just to add to the confusion, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms has also said that there was an explosive device, what they keep referring to as a second bomb in the building. We've heard some reporting from Oklahoma City this morning about a gas leak and the possibility of a gas explosion. But in general terms, this is being treated as if it were a bomb. There have been fires adjacent to the federal building there. This is an explosion that was felt at an enormous distance away, at least 30 miles away in one case. Damage was scattered all throughout the downtown area. We know that at least more than 100 people have been injured, and the debris scattered over a wide area. Office workers at the local newspaper 2 blocks away were blown from their chairs by the explosion. Back to Channel 5.
They told our helicopter they could only get within 5 miles of that building for safety purposes as well. And Rhonda was with Phil Monahan, 5 News photojournalist, when all of this happened. Phil, you still look like you're a little shaken.
It's something like I have never seen in my life. What kept going through my mind looking at it was, I lived in Los Angeles in 1971 during a major earthquake. And this is far, far worse than anything I saw at that point.
It's hard, too, for us to look at it, but you have a job to do out there, too. And in certain situations like this, it can be really, this is some new stuff that we're looking at here of the building. It can be really difficult to get the pictures and to do your job and to stay calm and all of that combined.
It's amazing that everywhere you turned, there were people like this, just devastated, physically hurt.
Laying all over the streets.
Yes, it honestly looked like a war zone. It still does. And there's very little that any of us could do to help, so you can do your job.
This is one of the first pictures Phil took. We just passed it. The black cloud of smoke, that's all we could see in the distance.
Probably just jumped out right then just to see what, did you all know at that point? You had heard, I'm sure, over the scanners what had happened?
But we weren't even for certain when we got there what building until Phil ran up and actually saw that it was the new federal building.
We heard scanner traffic saying that the new federal building was involved, and when I got up around the corner and saw the very first pictures you saw on this tape.
And most of these people that we talked to that are injured in this video, they were not in the federal building, but in nearby buildings, such as the Water Resource Board building. They were also in the Journal Record building, which was just to the north of the building that the explosion happened in. So you can see how they are injured, so we can only imagine what those people...
What you're looking at here is a block away to the north. There's a large building in between, large building in between where the explosion took place and where this is, and you can see all the windows blown out of the building behind it. It's incredible.
They were also warning people, you know, even though the explosion had already happened, they were warning people to be sure and walk in the middle of the streets. And if we're warning people to stay away from the downtown area. But if you're in that area, be sure and walk in the middle of the streets because there's still falling and flying glass everywhere.
Glass, brick, a lot of the buildings are heavily damaged.
All right, Phil Monahan, Rhonda Chapman, thank you very much. And now let's go to Jennifer Eve, who is on the update desk again. Jennifer.
All right, thanks. You talked about the emotional fallout from this, and it's a good point, a good place to remind people about what Dr. Tom Caniglione told us. He is the medical director down at St. Anthony Hospital, and he said that not only have they called in a lot of emergency personnel, I believe he said they have around 300 now, and he even said they had too many volunteers otherwise.